This afternoon, after the novices visited the Praputinyathera Cha Supato Memorial, Luang Ta Aneg shared Ajahn Chah's life story with the novices. He was the founder of Wat Nong Ba Pong's forest tradition and the branch monasteries. The novices traveled to Wat Nong Ba Pong to meet Luang Bu Liam, the current abbot of Wat Nong Ba Pong. In the beginning, Wat Nong Ba Pong was a Buddhist monastery built from bamboo and kogan grass amongst the forest, only for monks to stay and practice monastic tasks in a simple way. Over time, the monastery has changed. However, Wat Nong Ba Pong is a Buddhist monastery that contains only necessary constructions. Most areas are covered with nature, without inessential facilities, following a simple and serene life. After the novices paid their respect to Luang Bu Liam, Pra Ajahn took them to the Bodhinyana Chedi, another important place in remembrance of Ajahn Chah Supato. A chedi is a Buddhist structure developed from the stupa, a hemispherical crypt. A chedi is used to store relics, which relatives and followers can worship. The Bodhinyana Chedi was built within only 6 months by faithful Buddhists and monks who built a crematorium for Ajahn Chah and relocated his relics inside. Every January there is an honorary celebration for Praputinyathera Chan Supato, in which people come to perform monastic tasks. Pra Ajahn led the novices in a triple circumambulation at Bodhinya Chedi to pay tribute to Luang Bu Cha's relics. Then the novices walked inside to attend a ceremony. Circumambulation is an Indian tradition to pay tribute to objects, places, or people. So for Buddhism, circumambulation around an uposatha or a chedi is performed to pay respect to the Buddha's teachings. Another emblem of paying respect and worship is the flower trays that the novices held from the beginning. As they stood before Ajahn Chah's relics, Pra Ajahn led the salutation chant.
ข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายขอถวายเครื่องสักการะแด่พระโพธิญาณเถรว่าเป็นที่พึ่งที่ระลึกข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายเคารพในพระคุณของท่านพระโพธิญาณเถรนั่นแล
The novices practiced Sekyavata in front of the Bodhinya Chedi. Though this was their first time doing an evening chant away from Wat Ba Sai Ngam, the novices were able to chant well. The fertility of Wat Nong Ba Pong resulted in the sound of grasshoppers in harmony with the novices' chant during the evening.
And on harmful state of mind, until I realize Nibbana, in every kind of birth, may I have the upright mind.
Pra Ajahn had the novices do a short sitting meditation before the evening chant ended. the activities at Wat Nong Ba Pong came to an end. It was time for the novices to practice as young temporary visitors at Wat Ba Nana Chat, a branch monastery of Wat Nong Ba Pong. The novices walked in the rain to meet Pra Kru Ubon Pawanawite, or Pra Ajahn Gewali, the abbot of Wat Ba Nana Chat. The novices politely asked for permission to stay there for 3 days. This is considered akan tukawata, or the duties of the visitors to behave properly while traveling, or the duties of the visitors in order to behave properly while traveling. In addition to Pra Ajahn Gewali, they were warmly welcomed by the monks, novices, and Pakao of Wat Ba Nana Chat, all gathered at the hall. Pra Ajahn Gewali gave words of welcome.
Welcome again to Wat Ba Nana Chat, the International Forest Monastery. We're happy to have you here for, I think, 3 nights. But I think I'll have to disappoint you. I think it's not such a good idea to put up your glot tonight. You might be just swimming away and completely get drained and soaked. So I hope that you find a cozy place to spend the night. We have a big kuti for all of you.
Then Pra Ajahn informed them of the strict rules at Ba Nana Chat. He also told them of the requirements of the Pakao to become novices and for the novices to become monks.
You can see a little bit what Ba Nana Chat is doing usually. We open up the possibility for foreigners to Thailand to come to meditate and get a taste of life in the monastery. And these young gentlemen here, they sometimes are here for 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 3 decades. It depends. More or less, we try to introduce them to what a classic, normal, traditional forest monastery is about. And some of them like it, and they come back, or they stay and ask to become a Pakao. And all of you have been Pakaos, haven't you? Like, how long have you been a Pakao before you ordained? 1 week, okay. So you see left and right of you, there are 3 samples of good Pakaos. And they wish to become novices at some point. There's one of them sitting right here. He's about to be ready to become a novice. So about after having been a Pakao for half a year, we allow them to become Samanera. Does anybody know how long you have to be Samanera at Wat Ba Nana Chat? Okay, DJ.
2 years.
Almost. Just 1. Unless you never come to morning chanting, or you always have lots of leftover food in your bowl, and you're always too lazy to sweep your kuti, then maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, until you really become a monk.
Before the end of the sermon, Pra Ajahn Gewali advised meditation techniques and had everyone do a sitting meditation for 10 minutes prior to chanting the Metta Sutta before break time.
This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle.
Today's Dhamma expedition was a good experience for the novices to reach the core of Dhamma through storytelling and a new environment. It will serve as an inspiration, however great or small, to adapt themselves to follow Wat Nong Ba Pong's way of practice in body, speech, and in mind. In the morning after the first night at Wat Ba Nana Chat, the novices began the monastic routines before dawn. The novices gathered at Tititam Sala at 3:30 a.m. to prepare for the morning chant with Pra Ajahn and the monks of Wat Ba Nana Chat. Most of the monks are foreigners who are not attached to wealth or fame and live a simple life in order to learn the Buddha's Dhamma. After a while, Pra Ajahn Gewali began chanting the salutation to the Triple Gem.
Samma Sambuddho, to the Blessed One, the Lord, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, Sawakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo, to the teaching which he expounded so well, Supatipanno Yassa Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho.
In addition to the monks and novices, the Bakau, or white robes, who are learning to live a simple life at Wat Ba Nana Chat, also join the morning chant. The morning chant continued. As the chant says, the clock continues to tick, just like the human body that gradually wilts through time, following the way of nature.
Rupang anicca, form is impermanent. Vedana anicca, feeling is impermanent. Sanya anicca, perception is impermanent. Sankhara anicca, mental formations are impermanent. Vijnana anicca, sense consciousness is impermanent. Rupang anatta, form is not self. Vedana anatta, feeling is not self. Sanya anatta, perception is not self. Sankhara anatta, mental formations are not self. Vijnana anatta, sense consciousness is not self. Sabbe sankhara anicca, all conditions are transient. Sabbe dhamma anattati, there is no self in the created or the uncreated.
Once the morning chant ended, Pra Ajahn Gewali had the novices do a sitting meditation in order to have them focus on the present moment. There was only Pra Ajahns voice that guided the novices through the darkness that covered Tititam Sala.
Sitting like the Buddha with this beautiful energy of your mindfulness and wisdom being pointed and being visible like a flame on top of your head. Flame that is very still, like a candle. Make yourself like a candle. Imagine like there's a long candle from your bottom all the way up to your spine, through your head, and then there's this beautiful flame.
After the morning chant, the novices attentively cleaned and prepared the dwelling along with the Pra Ajahn from Wat Ba Nana Chat. Then they prepared their requisites to go for alms. This morning the novices followed Phra Ajahn Sawang, Phra Ajahn Gewali, the abbot of Wat Ba Nana Chat, and other Phra Ajahn for an alms round along a new path. Although the scenery may be different, the Buddhists' faith shown to Thai and foreign monks is no different from that at Det Udom. The locals prepared uncooked food to offer as alms as usual. The novices were able to remain mindful and calm as Phra Ajahn had taught them, even though they were walking on an unusual path. Following the alms round, Phra Ajahn and the novices gathered at Tititam Sala. There were also Buddhists and students who joined the ceremony this morning before breakfast. This was an atmosphere that was very different from what they were familiar with. The layman recited the 5 precepts and offering chant while offering food and necessary items to the monks. After receiving the offerings, Phra Ajahn Gewali gave a sermon.
For example, this morning, like you did the practice of coming out to give alms to the monks. And I think all of you did this with a special feeling. You had to get up very early, earlier than when you go to school, and you had to prepare things. And it was important for you. I saw that you are in time. You suddenly had to run, really. All these little things matter. And then how we give, giving respectfully, giving with an act of like focusing on your mind. It's not so much the amount of, say, water bottles or little cookies that we give to the Sangha, but it's how we do it. And this expresses our genuine readiness by the heart, our genuine goodness in the heart. And this is something I'd like you all to remember. You don't have to do much, but you put your heart into it. And you know the word mindful, sati, mindfulness is a very popular word all over the world right now. Actually, many schools have copied this from Buddhism. Some of us have just been visiting a branch monastery in America, and everywhere there's talk about mindfulness. They understood that actually things, in order to be nice and beautiful, people have to put their heart into it. You have to do it only as quick as you can, not quicker, not rushed. Know what you're doing and do it with the spirit that you intended to do. It's really important to see that if you translate Buddhism into modern terms, you have mindfulness, put your heart into things, and you have stress reduction.
He also blessed everyone who came to make merit today.
อาภิวาทนาสิริสานิจังวุธาปจายโนจัตตารโอธรรมวาทันติอายุวันโนสุขังบาลัง
Even though this is the last week of a month of ordination, the novices' learning has only just begun. They still have many lessons ahead on how to eliminate self and ego and learn to be givers with compassion and kindness. After the meal, the novices clean the alms bowls. They wipe the bowls and put them in the shoulder straps and bases, then let them dry completely in the sun for tomorrow's use. As today is the eve of the Buddhist observance day on the 7th waxing moon of the 8th lunar month, they will dye saffron robes in the afternoon. The dyeing shed of Wat Ba Nanak Chat is surrounded by the green shade of trees. The building is simple, but full of essential equipment for dyeing. Inside the building are stoves to boil water and sap from the jackfruit heartwood to use for robe dyeing. Even though the novices had already learned how to dye the saffron robes, they had never seen the manufacturing area. Therefore, on this morning, Pra Ajahn had the novices wash and dye the saffron robes themselves.
So we're gonna have like 2 activities, wash robe and also like making broom. You have to choose. You have to choose. Okay.
Looks like here.
Okay, who going to make broom? Who make broom? Go to Tan Kunakaro. Make broom.
I don't want.
Oh, okay. Here.
As they arrived at the dyeing area, the novices observed the things around them. Pra Ajahn demonstrated the dyeing process to the novices.
Try to turn it. Yeah. Try to make sure everything gets wet.
I have a cut over here, so I need to wear gloves and be careful.
Okay.
Ooh.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
They were also taught how to wash the saffron robes in detail.
You don't try to get more water than chips. Can you try to? You see all these chips?
Yes.
You don't want the chips. You want the water. Okay. Can you put it back in? Tip it over. Completely. Okay. Now try to get a lot of water. Okay. Wait. Here. There you go. Okay.
Meanwhile, Pra Ajahn let some of the novices learn how to sew the saffron robes. Pra Ajahn taught the novices closely about the sewing of the saffron robes, beginning with measuring the fabric.
You don't have to be that accurate. Just 15 is okay. All right, now draw. It's fine. It's meant to curve.
Wait, you drop from that side. You drop from that side.
Oh, too late. Go, just let him. Okay. All right. Good.
Once the material had been measured, Pra Ajahn allowed the novices to cut the fabric. Once the fabric had been cut, Pra Ajahn demonstrated how to use a sewing machine. Afterwards, Pra Ajahn asked the novices about the steps of sewing in order for them to review it.
Okay, are you following?
Yes.
Jaden?
Yes.
Okay. And then, where does it go?
In there.
That's it. Very good. Where else does it go?
In there.
Okay. Then where?
Then through there.
Okay.
It is amazing.
Then it goes through here, then where?
Pra Ajahn demonstrated how to use a sewing machine. The novices were very interested and wanted to try it themselves.
Right, this is the fun part. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so Benno, you want to try the pedal?
Yeah.
Okay, now watch how I place my feet, okay? Look, the toe has to be on this, okay?
The novices eagerly dyed their saffron robes. The novices hung their saffron robes on the clothesline to dry, once the dyeing had finished. Dyeing and hanging the saffron robes is complicated in every step. When the robe is dry, it has to be hung in the shade in order to keep the color from fading and allow it to last longer. Since the clothesline was too high for the novices, they had to learn to cope with the extra effort and struggle.
Rewatching again. Rewatching again, ba. Let's go.
Since ancient times, sewing and taking care of their own saffron robes has been helping monks to feel proud of themselves. Moreover, they will be more careful when wearing the robes, as they are requisites offered by the lay people. Taking care of the requisites will be another important lesson for the novices to learn how to look after themselves and offer help to others with compassion and kindness. This afternoon, Phra Ajahn led the novices to the cremation site of Wat Ba Nana Chat. Before entering the cremation site, Phra Ajahn let the novices do a walking meditation to practice mindfulness and the proper conduct of body, speech, and mind.
Are skeletons scary?
Yes.
Okay.
They're scary in Halloween when you just put themselves
Yeah.
and people just
to us all the time.
Yes. Does anyone know where skeletons are right now?
In our body.
Yes, in your body right now.
So you don't have to be scared of bones.
So inside everyone's head is a skull. Okay, so everyone inside of us, every single person has a skeleton inside, okay? Is everyone's skeleton inside scary for people?
No.
Is right in...
If you don't have a skull, your skull should be flat.
Phra Ajahn explained to the novices about the 4 deities who presented themselves in front of the Buddha, taking the forms of 4 different stages of life. These were aging, sickness, death, and a bhikkhu. The Buddha was so overcome by these sights that he decided to ordain to relieve suffering and realize that true happiness does not come from temporary things.
Have you guys ever experienced when you eat something so delicious that you're happy forever? No.
after I ate spaghetti, I was happy for
Yes.
about an hour.
Okay. So,
Smiling after that.
Phra Ajahn posed questions about the bhikkhu that Siddhartha encountered, encouraging the novices to think.
if the Bodhisattva saw that through eating delicious food and seeing beautiful things and beautiful people and hearing nice music and living in a palace, that didn't bring true happiness, like what do you think that he thought when he saw the monk who was happy and who was peaceful?
I want to become a Buddha. I want to become like a Buddha.
Exactly.
Then Phra Ajahn explained how the Buddha eliminated dukkha through meditation. Afterward, Phra Ajahn led the novices to another place not far from the cremation site to review the principles of meditation.
Another way to describe sila, it's when you don't do anything which is harmful, and then you act kindly. You act in like what you call beneficent way. So you're helping other beings. Does that make sense? So you don't harm, and you benefit other people.
Phra Ajahn also provided some examples to make the novices understand more clearly about the principles of meditation.
So imagine if you have a pond and it has many fish in it, and it has some dust and some sand and some dirt and some rocks inside, yeah? So imagine if these fish are very, very, very still, then what is the water like? The water is clear, yes? But if these fish swim around very, very, very quickly and start fighting and arguing, then what happens to the water?
Blurred.
What's that?
Blurred.
Yeah, it gets blurred, it gets cloudy. Now why is that? Yes. Yeah, it gets murky or cloudy. Because what happens is all the movement, it creates movement in the water, which will stir up the very fine things in the water, and will also get like the dust in the water, and also the dirt, and then also the sand, and even the rocks will start moving around if they move around very quickly. Does that make sense? So, the more these fish move around, argue, fight, the more they're never still, the more cloudy that water becomes. Okay? So then if you wanted to make this pond, the water clean again, what do you have to do? Yes.
Stay still.
Exactly. You have to stay still, or you have to get the fish to be still. Does that make sense? So say, for example, if these fish were to be still for 5 minutes, yes, then the very, very heavy things in the water would eventually settle down. Yes? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then the water would become a little bit more clear. And if the fish were to stay still for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then the more refined things would slowly begin to settle down. And the water would become more clear and more clear. Does that make sense? And so eventually, even the most refined things in the water would settle down, and the water would become very, very clear. Does that make sense? Okay. Is this magical? No, it's very natural. Is this mystical? Is it something very special? No, it's very natural. That when you have stillness, things begin to calm down naturally. So when we practice meditation, this is kind of one way that we reflect on how to practice. That meditation is natural. It's the mind which is not busy.
Then Phra Ajahn explained how to examine the impermanent, the dissatisfactory, and the non-self, or anatta, by using wisdom to eliminate suffering. He also stated that those who have wisdom will see the truth that all things are impermanent. After explaining the principles of meditation, Phra Ajahn took the novices to the hall to do a sitting meditation in order to examine their own bodies and minds. This afternoon's class was just another lesson for the novices to learn and understand the truth of the world. Things occur and decay, following a cycle of nature that no one can escape. No one can take possessions or property with them after death. The only thing we can bring is goodness from what we have done. Therefore, we must spend our lives performing good deeds, living life mindfully, and being a giver to benefit the next generations.